Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Living on Lemonade podcast. I'm your host, Lauren. It's so great to be back recording after taking a couple weeks off. As you may know, if you've been following along, this is kind of summer tends to be busier for most people. They like to take, we like to take holidays, especially if the weather's nice, if you're in the northern hemisphere and school's out and all the things. So it's definitely a time to shift some of the priorities. And over the last, month or two, we've been in the busy season at work. I work for the Coast Guard. And so there's a lot of overtime lately. We're short-staffed at the moment. And that kind of makes it a little bit harder to juggle things. So I've been taking little kind of pockets of time in between rounds of work and stuff here and there, and just finding some time even in the evenings in between shifts to kind of find some of that balance, use my soul tool belts as I call them, and just try to stay afloat. I did end up getting sick a couple weeks back, but honestly it wasn't all that surprised. We can put all our tools to work, and for we're working that much, it's kind of only a matter of time before we break down a little bit anyway. But excuse me, as you can tell, I'm a little bit tired. I worked today and I work tomorrow. So this is kind of going to be a quick episode before I hit the hay. I'll do a quick edit and schedule it for tomorrow. And then, yeah, it'll go out and I feel really good about doing it. So a couple weeks back, we took a trip to basically an antique motor, like a car and boat show, which was super fun. We drove our boat to the little town and hung out there for a couple nights. Eric's cousin and wife were with us for part of it, so that was super fun. And just kind of walked around. It was really nourishing. It was nice to spend time together. And I thought about my dad a lot while we were there. My dad loved classic cars. He loved cars in general, but especially classic cars. And he used to take me to car shows as a kid when he was watching me, and my mom was working on a weekend or something and I had to tag along. He'd take me to those things. So it was very nostalgic. It made me miss him, of course, but at the same time, I think I'm kind of at a place in my grief where I can smile a little bit, and through the heartache of like, I wish he was here, or I wish I could take a picture and send it to him. Couple of his favorite cars were a 55 Chev, so Chevy Impala, sorry, not Impala, Chevy Bel Air. And I found a couple, took a couple pictures, and then he used to have a 68 Chevy convertible. Oh, I can't talk tonight. He used to have a 68 Chevrolet Camaro. And I Eric happened to point one out for me, so that was pretty cool, and I took a picture. So it's those little moments that you don't really expect, that it's like, oh man, I would have popped that into text and sent it to him, or sent him an email, because his texting didn't always work with photos and stuff. But overall, it was just kind of nice. It just felt like I feel like he lives in my heart, and I can do these things that he loved and we used to do together, and just know that like it makes me feel closer to him. So that was lovely. And a little bit of a side tangent. After we got back from the boat and car show, I think we pretty much had to get turned around right away. No, I think I worked a couple shifts. Yeah, I worked a couple shifts, and then we went camping with Eric's family. I think I was still on nights. Eric went and picked up the trailer. So I went the next day, and we spent the week, like just Monday to Friday, camping with his family, which was super nice. I caught up on some sleep, went to bed early-ish most nights. I think I was usually heading back to the trailer by like midnight and sleeping in. It's just kind of one of those things this time of year. My favorite type of self-care is not setting an alarm. If I can wake up on my own and sleep in, and believe me, I don't feel guilty about it. there's no guilt there because sleeping is like my favorite pastime. I love napping. I'm a napping champion. But if I have the opportunity to sleep until my body says, all right, we're ready to go, that's my favorite self-care. I will take that over anything. That and floating in the water on my back. But yeah, so it was we had some nice family time, kind of caught up with the Eric siblings and parents, which was super nice. And then came back and spent a day on the boat out on the water yesterday, which was really nice. It was a beautiful day. And then back to work today. And today was a big event called the Float Down, which is in Port Huron, Michigan. Uh, there's some on the Canadian side as well, but mostly on the American side, they take big floaties that would normally be for the pool and like our big rafts, and they jump in the river with them and float down the river. And it's an unsanctioned event, but the commercial traffic is actually closed in the river. The only time in the entire year this happens. I have some mixed feelings about it, but we'll leave it at that. And yeah, so it's a whole thing. I was just working like normal at work today. I wasn't working with the float down event, but it's always a thing to watch on the camera, watching all these people float down the river and just shake my head. And then yeah, then we just kind of had a relaxing evening, and here I am. So I think what I wanted to talk about today, I feel a little bit, I'm just going to take a moment and just take a breath. I feel a little bit scatterbrained. So just telling you about all the things. And I'm like, where am I going with this? I'm just going to take one breath. Sometimes we just need a breath. So I wanted to talk to you about FOMO and just being, I guess, gentle with yourself and being able to kind of pivot as things change. And this applies to my life just this past weekend, actually today ending, because I represent a network marketing. I have a network marketing business with Norwex, and they had their national conference this weekend. I had originally signed up to be there in person. It's in Toronto, which is about 3 hours from where I live. And then plans with Eric's family came together for this week for camping. So I kind of was like, do I leave early from camping and go, that'd be a lot of rushing around, and I kind of leave Eric hanging with the trailer. And I kind of let myself sit with it a little bit because I really had so much fun last year. We had just gotten back from bringing our boat around the lakes, and I rushed off to conference, and it was so wonderful because it was the first conference since pre-COVID in person. And there were a lot of people that I met online that I had yet to meet in person. So that was like amazing. It was so much fun. Our friendships got even closer, and we had so much fun together that weekend. So I was feeling the FOMO, the idea of FOMO, like fear of missing out if I didn't go. But what I've really been focusing on over the last year, I say especially since I started working shift work, I've kind of started the awareness because my dad was really on top of me about it. But especially since he passed away, I really had to take a step back because I had very little, if any, capacity for like much last year. I really just was very much a shell of myself, and I would get little glimmers here and there and kind of enjoy it. But there was last year felt really dark, and I feel like I've just started to kind of come out of that with a fresh perspective. It's like being in a cocoon, and it's dark and it's scary and it's unknown, and I don't know, like we don't know what's happening next. And then it's, things start to kind of break open, and I'm coming out with like new eyes and this new perspective, and there's still so much grief in my heart that will never leave because my dad was one of my people. But I know that, and I think I've said this before, one of the conversations that we had when he first found out his illness was terminal was that he told me, "I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to be in so much pain for so long. Like, miss me, but don't stay there. Don't live there for too long, right? Like, pick yourself back up. It's okay. We're still connected on some level, and that's what he wanted for me. So I've really been keeping that in mind while also giving myself grace in the difficult days. I never shame myself for the difficult days. I let them happen. That's how we let the emotions pass through us. I believe that that's what we're supposed to do as humans. When we have emotions, we're supposed to allow them. That's what they're for. We're not meant to be bottled up and cause all these problems down the road. But so anyway, I just went on another tangent. I was talking about last year with conference and how amazing it was. So I was struggling, but at the same time, because of what my dad had said, I've been very conscious about, like, how does it feel? Not just what I think, because if it's what I think, I'll continue to take on more than I really can handle, and it'll lead to burnout, resentment, illness, all of the things, right? So I have been very conscious about, am I getting to a point where I have too much on my plate? And where's how am I nourishing myself as well while I'm doing all these things? Because sometimes it's a whole lot of things I love, but there's still that line we have to draw. Whether or not we're super passionate about it, we still have to have boundaries with ourselves to say, I'm super excited about all these things, but I need to postpone some of it, and maybe it can wait a week or next month. I'm finding myself this way a little bit right now, where I'm kind of like, okay, I'm looking at my calendar and all of the exciting things that I'm planning, and I'm like, I need to be very careful. So conference was one of those things. And ultimately, I made the decision that it is not in my best interest with my mental, physical, emotional health this year to add a trip to Toronto after like 2 back-to-back trips. So as much as I missed all my friends this weekend and I was looking at the pictures and hearing all about it, I I know that I made the right decision, because when I sat with it, and I think this is really important, and I've started teaching people about this because I swear by it, it's my compass now. I take that time to get quiet and maybe take a few deep breaths, get out of my head, and sink into my body, because our bodies tell us so much if we give it room to listen and we get out of our squirrel brains or our monkey minds. And I took that time to reflect, and it was like, is this in my best interest to still go to conference in person and put that pressure on myself to be doing that drive after just camping and this and that and all this back and forth, and I would have had to take more time off work. And it was like, it felt constrictive. It felt like no, it felt like a should, and it felt uncomfortable. Like, it immediately felt stressful. And I said, okay, I'm gonna let myself off the hook then. And I'm gonna miss my friends, and I'm gonna miss the experience. And part of me is gonna wish I'm there. And I did. And I still, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I wish I could have been there. But the reality is it was a crazy week, and I made the right decision for me, and I don't regret it. I look forward to next year, reuniting with my friends and being at conference and learning together and sharing that experience. But I signed it, like, I switched from in person to virtual, and I can watch the replay so I can see what I missed. Because the other part of that was, because I wasn't going and I was like actively doing stuff in the past, there were a couple years where I probably, while camping, probably would have like tried to go off and like watch it live and not have been present with family. And it's like, why am I here then? Right. So I've developed a greater awareness just through these types of practices. It kind of builds over time. It's like building blocks, and it kind of just becomes your lifestyle. So I just said, you know what? I'm present while camping. I did have some quiet time to read, but it was like, I will catch up on conference later when I have the time and space, because I really wouldn't have been paying super close attention, and I would have been distracted. And then, like, are you being good at either one of the things that you're doing, probably, like, I probably wouldn't have been, right? I wouldn't have been present with family, and I wouldn't have really been paying attention to conference. So kind of would have been not time well spent. So I'm looking forward to catching up, seeing what I missed, and just knowing that at this time in the summer, with the amount of work and other obligations that I've had, while also making sure that I'm nourishing my soul and just making sure that I feel healthy and strong and resilient in mind, body, and spirit, that it's okay. So if you're in a place where there's a whole lot going on and something feels like a should, and it just feels, it stresses you out right away, can you take it off your plate? Can you postpone it? Can you switch it up or do something differently? Can you just say, I'm sorry, I can no longer commit to this? What can you do to bring yourself back into alignment? Because when we're out of alignment, it's like that's when it kind of chips away at us, right? When we start doing the things that we know like don't feel good, we really don't want to do it. This is when we start to lose our authenticity, and we start to lose touch with ourselves, and we're not honoring ourselves and our own integrity. And it's a slippery slope. I will say that because I've been there. I'm trying really hard to be conscious, and I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself for, despite really wanting to go and feeling like I was going to maybe disappoint some people, I knew that it was the best thing for me. And I'm proud that I don't want to say stood up for myself because no one was like shaming me, but I'm proud that I took the time to really evaluate, make that decision for me, be comfortable with it, and stand in that, in my power of like, this is what's best for me. And I'm taking care of myself. And I know that people will respect that. So I think that's pretty much all I want to say for tonight. I'm going to wrap this up and get it edited and put up for tomorrow. In terms of what's coming up, we have the Jolted Masterclass. Oh my goodness, give me 1 second. It's coming up the first week of September. I want to say the 6th. Oh geez, okay. Just have to look it up really quick. I want to say the 6th. So coming up next, the next free masterclass inside the Living on Lemonade podcast, or sorry, inside the Living on Lemonade group, Facebook group, is Thursday, September 7th at 8 p.m. It's Jolted, and it's about triggers. What are triggers? It's basically an introduction. A lot of these topics are just introductory for those who have maybe heard the term but aren't familiar with what they are. And we'll talk about that and some integration. I love doing integration practices when I teach, so that you actually have something tangible to take away that you can apply to your life. The replay will end up being on the podcast, but there's always a different energy when you join the group. So I'll have the group in the show notes. You can join it if you haven't already. It's great over there. I have some other things I'll be making. No, it's a different thing. I have some things kind of in the works. I just did a brain dump, which I'm going to do an episode, I think, on brain dumps because they're awesome. But I'm slowly building this sustainably and practicing what I preach, and it's working really well for me. So stay tuned. There'll be more in this group that kind of as we go and build. And I hope everyone's doing well. You're enjoying your summer, the last bit of summer. And I will see you inside the next episode. Bye, everyone.